Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. Today's topic is powerful action. Welcome to the Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can sparkle just a little bit brighter each and every day. If what you hear speaks to your soul, go ahead and give us a rating and a review in iTunes. You can also find us on SoundCloud and Stitcher. And hey, if there's somebody in your life that you think would enjoy this podcast, go ahead and share it with them. Well, hey there, Nick. What's going on?
Hello, Kisma.
Hi.
Lots of things going on.
Lots of things. We're going to talk about powerful action today.
We are. I'm excited, as with all the topics. I'm really excited about this one, too.
You're such a podcast geek.
I like it. I think I'm having a lot of fun with it. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I'd enjoy it this much, but I'm actually really enjoying it.
Give Nick a microphone and he is happy.
Sometimes I gotta get started, I gotta get going. But once you get me going, sometimes you can't shut me up.
Well, it took about 2 seconds today. So anyways, there's one little tidbit of info you were going to share with everybody. What is that?
I want to talk about the mantra snacks.
Mantra snacks.
So we're loving and having so much fun with the podcast. These episodes, as you can see, are a little bit longer. We go into more depth on things, and that's really cool. Mm-hmm. But what we were thinking is that this is such a small part, and there's so many conversations and so many things that we would just love to share with people. But we don't always have, we don't pull out the mics and do a podcast about it and everything like that. And if we let all these topics stack up, it's
missed information.
It's just a lot. Yeah. So we wanted to create something called mantra snacks. Mm-hmm. So a mantra snack is basically it's like a 5 or 10 minute episode, and we just share a quick little thought. It might be one of us. It might be both of us. We share a quick little thought and a quick little something for you to kind of chew on throughout the day. A
little morsel, a little snack.
And that's pretty much it. That's a mantra snack.
So how do people find mantra snacks?
So mantra snacks, our intention, we don't really... I'm going to be honest. I don't know exactly where this one's going to go, but it's going to be in the feed with these, with our regular Illumination podcasts. Mm-hmm. We're not going to make individual posts on our page and do that whole thing for these. They're just going to show up in the feed.
They're just little bites.
And they'll just show up when they show up.
It's like that chocolate chip cookie you grab at the mall when you're done shopping. You're like, here comes the train of truth. So obviously the mantra snacks are okay because the train of truth came by just in time.
With the ding. This one's got the ding.
I feel like Mr. Rogers.
With the cookie?
No, the train.
Wait.
The train.
Okay.
Here it comes, loud and clear. Well, hello there, children. I'm going to put my tennis shoes on.
Wow, that was
Mr. Rogers.
I never saw that one coming.
Okay, move on.
All right, so mantra snacks. Mantra snacks are going to be in the feed. So if you look in iTunes, if you look in Stitcher, if you look in SoundCloud, you'll just see them pop up in there. Mm-hmm. They'll be kind of sneaky. We do them on the fly sometimes. Some of them are recorded on our phones, and we just pop them up there. So we hope you enjoy those. Go check them out. And mantra snacks.
Cool. Awesome.
Mantra snacks in the feed. So let's get into it. Are you ready?
Yes.
Powerful action.
Yeah. What is powerful action?
Why is powerful action important?
Well, in my opinion, powerful action is important because for me, it means that we have set our intention to do something and we've done it and received the result that we wanted.
So basically, I got what I wanted.
I got what I set out to do. And it's not like what I wanted in a selfish way, but look, everyone, we are our freaking architects and creators of our reality. I hope we've made that clear by now. If not, please understand you're the architect of your reality. You can command and create your reality. So why not set out with this conscious intention of what we want to either say or do or be or create? And when we do that and we get the required results or the results we wanted, that is powerful. And I don't mean this like some big egocentric power or muscle, but I think even in a conversation, if we are able to enunciate and convey an idea through words, and the other person receives and understands what we're saying and conveying, that is powerful.
That is powerful.
When you look around and you see how many people are in their phones or their computers and they're actually not communicating because I see this. I see people next to each other and they're texting. Who out here, raise your hand unless you're driving, but raise your hand if you've been in the same room with another human or in the same house. Instead of having a conversation, you texted them.
We've totally done that.
We've totally done that.
I'm going to own that.
So something going on out there.
Yeah. And I think for me, this is a really important conversation because it does come down to how you create in your life.
Yes.
And I just feel like a lot of times when people think about powerful action, taking massive action, as they like to say in the coaching world, it's like, yes, that's really important, but it's got this kind of forceful nature behind it, like raw, like I'm gonna just take over the world.
Yeah, and when someone's taking massive action, the person on the other end feels that forced nature. It doesn't feel good. To me, that is like massive, powerful is massive in a really good way.
Well, I mean, I think aside even from the other people, the people on the other end of that, the human who's in that mode of like just pure will through the world, gets tired.
It gets tired. Who out there, raise your hand unless you're driving. You've been tired by this quote unquote massive action you had to take, whether at work, in your family or whatever. It's like this forced, I'm going to create this. And after a while, you're like, what the freaking A am I creating?
Yeah. And it really gets back to this sense of like really overactive will.
Will.
That's not to say that you don't have will. I think we actually talked about this a couple episodes ago when we talked about the 3 C's. And it's like the I am the doer.
What are the 3 C's?
Concentration,
commitment,
consistency, and cooperation.
Well, I had commitment in there. There's 4 of them.
Yeah, commitment's awesome. You have to be committed to concentrate.
You do.
But that kind of like willful, like I'm doing this, like I'm getting, and I'm getting it done. Like that's cool, except that when you're constantly in that, it just can get so tiring. And that is a way overactive will.
Yes.
And so what makes it not powerful is because it crosses that line into force. If you haven't read that book ever, Power versus Force, really great book. I always forget that guy's name.
David Hawkins.
Thank you, David. I think that's right. Yeah.
Letting Go is a good one too.
I haven't read that one yet. That's a great book where he really talks about like what is powerful and where does that transition into force.
Right.
And then we start forcing our way through the world and we start and like, I don't know about you, but how does it go for you, for you? I can tell you how it goes for me when I start to force things in relationships.
Oh. Not good.
Not a happy day here at Nick and Kisma Central. It's just not, but it's the same way when I'm, trying to solve a problem, if I'm trying to put up a new landing page or something or do something, or if I'm trying to write a post and I'm just trying to like force my way through it, it's not effective.
It's not effective. Yeah. It's not clean. It's not purposeful. And when you think about everyone, purposeful is powerful, which leads us to what I believe certainly creates powerful action. So when you think of this word purpose, what's behind purpose, right? There's meaning, there's direction, there's even a sense of devotion to this outcome. Like I really am committed because this has purpose. It's like that why that Seth Godin talks about. What's your why? What's your purpose? That creates power in a human and their being and their field and their thoughts and their actions and then in their results.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about powerful action as well, because I just want to circle back to this because this is kind of important. It's like when you don't feel like, when it does start to feel a little bit forced, it doesn't mean that you stop. By the way,
that's true.
Don't stop.
Stopping's not good.
Like just stopping's not good. you want to stay in action, like actions, like taking action, like whatever that action is. For me, it's like writing more, which I can go through bouts of like creativity and I'll like write. And it's awesome. Or I can just go through spells where it's just like painful.
Yeah.
And it's important for me to keep writing. And it is what I just own it. It is forced sometimes. And it is not the best. I can see the results. It's not the highest quality,
right.
But that doesn't mean that you don't do it, because actions, like anything, whatever that action is, you have to practice it, and you do have to push through some of those things.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but that's a really important to understand, is that when you talk about powerful action, you have to practice to refine your action. It's not just about doing a bunch of things and just taking massive action. It's a style of action.
Well, look at some of you, if you work in a company, or say you are part of a team, or say you're the manager of a team, or you're the CEO of the whole freaking system. If you decide on Wednesday, I'm going to suck it up and I'm going in with powerful action, I'm going to communicate, and we're going to get stuff done. And it's like, okay, all of a sudden Wednesday's going well and Thursday's going well. And then you get tired. And by, Friday, you're having a martini at 3 p.m. In other words, if it is not a consistent muscle being exercised and strengthened, it's not powerful. It's up and down, up and down. It's the roller coaster of life.
Which is natural as you develop it. I want to say that. Like, it is natural as you develop it, but I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad you said that. It is a muscle that you continue to develop, and the consistency is what
so important,
right? So there's going to be there's days when I'm doing my workout and I'm freaking tired,
right?
And I don't feel like it, and those are days where, to take powerful action, I have to just take some action to get started, so that I can get into the flow, and then I can find where my zone is with that. It's not a black and white conversation. It's really not. Like, there is a subtlety to it, and there's a way to create. Yeah. There's a way to create a natural flow and momentum with your action.
Right.
And that's actually when it becomes much more powerful.
Yes.
So,
can I bring up something?
Of course.
Well, for instance, too, look at relationships. So for those of you guys out there, you have a special someone in your life, and it's on and off in terms of how you're communicating, how you feel. Like Saturday night comes around, hey, honey, I love you. But the rest of the week, you've kind of like ignored the person, or reverse on women. If whatever it is, like, we have to have a consistency in communication of our feelings. What? Nick's smiling at me.
I was like, wow, you're just totally going to put that all on the guys, aren't you?
I said in the other way, because, gals, we got it all down out there. No, but it's true, right? For both sides, there's a consistency and respect and communication. Not that, and I'm not a big advocate of, I love you all day long. And I just think that's pure attachment, but really keeping the lines of communication open.
Yeah. Speech is an action.
Speech is in action. It totally is. All right. So let's look at, what is this purposeful part of action that creates power?
Say that for me one more time.
What is this purposeful part of action that creates power, or makes it powerful, I should say?
To me, it comes down to alignment.
Alignment.
So just being really congruent with who you are at the deepest level.
Who you are being while you are taking that action.
Yeah, because a lot of people,
make it very powerful.
People think, this is what I see, is that a lot of times people always put the solution out somewhere else.
Yeah,
it's like
so easy to blame, right?
In business, a lot of times it's the new marketing thing, or it's my new sales training, or it's like all these other things, my new time management thing, like I'm totally going to like master time and all this. And the results like tend to come up short.
Right.
And you wind up doing things that are just like totally counter to who you are as a human, and how your human expresses and exists in the world and relates to the world. So I always just say, go straight to the root. Like, let's go to the core of the issue and deal with it there.
Right.
So once you know who you are at that deepest level, I would call that like a soul level.
A soul level.
Your mindset will reflect that alignment.
Your mindset, your actions, your feelings,
Even
your flow,
even
your money.
Yeah, your emotions for
your
sure.
Relationships.
Yeah, everything will be a reflection of that. So you like mindset training's cool, and it's real. Like there are things.
It's okay. Let's just get to mindset training is okay.
Yeah, I think it's helpful in certain
It's
instances.
helpful.
Like people use it and they get good. They get results with it. But
how powerful are those results?
Well, right. I mean, and that's the whole point is like, and really at the end of the day, it's not just about the results. It's also about like how you feel in the process and your human experience throughout the whole process. Right. It's so how aligned you are at the deepest level, that freaking matters. Like it really matters.
So this is why we talk a lot about things, a person's soul purpose or their soul identity or one's soul peak performance. I love that, soul peak performance, because if we are not in alignment with the very core of who we are, with our nature, and I'm going to use this funny word called swadharma, then everything that we do will feel clunky and it will actually be more difficult, more treacherous, and not as powerful.
Right. It's understanding that your physicality, your emotions, your thoughts, and everything that comes out of that, which, your actions are based on those things, and your actions create results in the world. So like all of that starts at the seed of your personality.
Right.
Right. And that is your soul identity and your soul. There's an energy around that soul identity.
Right. For those of you that have heard us quote Swami Parthasarathi in his Vedanta treatise, he talks about this. And basically, activities which are consistent with your inherent nature are called svadharma. So think about what is your inherent nature. He talks about like from an early childhood, people will display a distinct interest, a leaning towards a particular element of life. Like if you grew up and you loved math or you loved drawing or you loved creating or you loved communication or you loved alone time, whatever it is, there's a reason why the artist doesn't go to med school, because it would be painful.
Yeah, and there's so many examples of people who've done exactly that.
Yeah.
Like this super creative, expressive person who winds up going to like engineering school because their folks wanted them to or whatever. They just thought that that's what they were supposed to do. And then they wind up, either just quitting, or not really being successful at it.
Exactly.
And just not being happy in your life. Like that's where you've wind up with that feeling of like, I know there's something more.
There's something more.
I know there's something that I'm supposed to be doing and this ain't it. Like I experienced that when I was when I was working in personnel management.
Yeah.
It was right on so many levels. Like here's the interesting thing, and I don't want to make it about the thing that you're doing because that's actually not even all of it. It's really how you're doing it.
Exactly.
But the thing that you're doing matters because you spend a lot of time with it. And so for me, when I was working in personnel management, it was so right on so many levels because I got to work with people. Like I was around people all the time and I love people. Like I really am fascinated by human beings. And I love interacting with people and I love like helping people just have a better experience.
Right.
And that was part of my job there. I was kind of between the artists and the management and helping, both sides kind of reconcile and making sure that all the contracts are being enforced and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and everything like that. And so it was a really great job for me on so many levels, but there was a part of me that just knew that, man, I can't really talk about what is in my soul in this setting.
Right.
And honestly, that was probably one of the biggest reasons I left. I also left because I hated having my schedule mapped out like a year in advance. Like that was just torturous to me.
Okay.
But really the bigger reason, excuse me, even than that was not being able to say the things that I knew needed to be said.
Right. Right.
Because I had certain parameters that I could work within. And so knowing that's a big part, just using me as an example. And I'm sure that if you're listening to this, there's probably other people that have this too, is like just using me. That's a big part of who I am. It's actually a really big part of who I am. And so there was these other areas that were getting expressed, but then there was this big area that was just like totally neglected.
Right.
And there's the train of truth.
Train of truth on that one, people. So there's a couple things here because, there's a beautiful statement one of our mentors said to me, actually just today. I'm just going to shout out his name, Toby Alexander. Once again, he's getting a lot of airtime on this podcast. But it was during a class. He said, make choices in line with who you are at a soul level and your life will flow. You will manifest massive abundance. That's powerful. And that often feels to people like you're about to step off the cliff. Like, really? There's that element of doubt. You mean, if I leave my 9-to-5 job and I do what I really want, I'm actually going to make money. Now, the issue, of course, is that I'm not saying quit your job or whatever. I think there's different ways to do this, but we must be in the powerful action that is in alignment with our soul's purpose.
Absolutely.
So if we embark on a new career, but we're not taking the action, of course it's not going to take off. That's where the extreme ownership, right? We talked about extreme ownership last week. That's where that comes in. We have to have that extreme ownership of taking action that is in alignment with our soul's purpose.
Yeah. And it's you. Well, I mean, the first thing you have to know is you have to know what that is. You have to actually know what that is. You don't even have to know your purpose. Like, forget about purpose. Just think about who you are at a core level. Mm-hmm. And how powerful it is when you're absolutely, totally congruent with that. Because I see a lot of times, and I've played this game myself, of that if I'm going to follow this, then I can't have that. Or if I'm going to do this, then I can't have that,
Lack and limitation.
It is. Yeah, that's totally lack and limitation. But it's like, and that's the conversation, before I left that job, that was one of them. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm probably not going to have much money.
Oh.
Right. Because I'll, and then I get my warrior on and I'm like, I'll die trying, or like whatever.
That sucks.
Yeah. That set up some really painful realizations, but that's another podcast.
But look at you now.
But now, yeah. And that's the thing. Nobody ever believes it. Like, but we make way more money now than I ever did.
And you set your schedule, you're committed, and you're working with people that you feel like you have a connection with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm working and I can go surfing in the afternoons if I want, or in the mornings, or basically whenever I want. And I work with awesome people and I have conversations that are, that really bring out all of me.
Right.
Like all of me that I know of. And I'm still discovering like all sorts of neat things, but as and every human does, as you grow and expand, like you wake up parts of yourself that you didn't know that you had.
Right.
But you have to start somewhere, and starting with that somewhere is starting at that seed of who you are. And that's who you are. So important.
So I want to, because we could talk about this for 5 hours or 50 hours or whatever, but let's give a few tips. So say one of our beautiful listeners out there, because we love you all, has a 9-to-5 job, but they're not really feeling it's their soul identity or their soul purpose or their soul peak performance or whatever, but yet they're not ready to quit that job. And I'm actually never an advocate of, quit your job and go chase your dreams. Like, no, because we want to always maintain the intellect, right? We want to always observe and take the right next required action. So any tips for that human?
Well, like you said, don't quit your job.
Yeah.
Don't.
Because in reality, isn't perception everything?
Well,
is there a way to walk in to that 9-to-5 that might feel so not your soul's purpose or svadharma, but create a different perception or take some different actions within and feel more aligned?
Well, it doesn't mean that you can't serve from your highest level.
Right.
And that's going to feel good.
That's going to feel good.
So process wise is definitely, and the reason that we say don't do that, like that's the way I did it. And I'm telling you, like, that's a painful way to do it. I was just like, I have no idea how I'm going to make ends meet, but screw it. I'm out. And I did it. And it was painful, and I got depressed, and my money got all messed up, like all kinds of things that really took quite a long time and a much, much bigger investment to sort out in myself.
Right.
So just call it for what it is. Like, and when that's at the, your money center is low in fundamental in your energetic structure. So when your money gets messed up like that, it can cause a lot of problems. It can mess up the way that your energy runs in your body and through your life. And it can really affect your health. And it can, just ask any married couple, what's, one of the number one arguments is usually about money, money or the kids.
Right.
So, when you mess that up at a fundamental level, that's no bueno. Like that's
sucks.
painful. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
And next is to figure out how you can really honor where you're at. You have to really honor like what that job has given you, because it's really easy to get into the mindset of like, they're not paying me what I'm worth. Like I'm putting so much into this and I'm not getting it back and yada, yada, yada. Like I went through all that for sure. And that was just dark. You have to getting out of that and really appreciating how far that has brought you and the gifts that you've been given from that. Like, you have a living.
Right.
It may not be the income you want. It may not be the work that you want. They may be overworking you. They may be trying to take advantage of you.
Or you might be making a ton of money and not loving the work that you're doing.
Yeah. There could be that too. But there's all kinds of things in there that you can find to appreciate. And that appreciation is really important. People would call that an attitude of gratitude. I don't know that I would call it that as much as I would call it really just honoring what is there for you right now. Because when you honor what you have right now, that will take you to the next place.
Totally. And bring more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than looking at, anytime we're creating negative thought forms, we're having low vibratory emotions, it's just going to get worse. Like we're just going to attract more of that lower yucky stuff.
Yeah. See,
so I love what you said at the beginning. Anytime we come from the highest level of ourselves, like our full potential, anytime we walk into our workplace from our full potential, it will be a different experience, people, because here's number one. If you're coming from your full potential, and that's really just intention, like everything I say, everything I do is coming from my full potential. And I guarantee there will be more spaces and pauses of silence in your day because you're getting yourself back to your full potential and you're actually pondering if you're in your full potential. People will start reacting to you differently. Some of them will freak out a little bit and start like wanting to get you agitated because they don't know what happened to you, because all of a sudden you're really poised and powerful and in control. And others will be like, I want that. Who is like, I'm going to start listening to you more carefully. I'm going to start observing. Hey, can we go and have drinks together because there's something about you I want? So the whole point is how you're carrying yourself internally can change any situation.
Yeah, that's really big. That's super big.
It's huge.
And then when that really comes back to that, like just honoring where you're at and then just stepping in to serve from your highest.
Right.
So when you do that, now you're starting to open up opportunities, for other things. You're going to open up also parts of yourself because you're going to have to let go of those little hurt pieces that feel victimized and feel taken advantage of or feel disappointed or whatever those parts are. Like those are really natural parts, everybody, has those and those things those things do come up. But you get to start to deal with those. You start to become lighter and brighter. And then that's going to start to open up those opportunities so that your exit plan from either that job, if it's like a job that you're like, I got to get out of here, your exit plan is going to start to become way more apparent. Or if it's just like, if you're already like, maybe even in the job that you or in the business, that you feel like is really congruent with who you are. And so many things are right about it, but you just know that there's something greater for you and you need to be doing things a little bit differently in order to do that. Well, that's going to start to open up for you too, but it's never going to open up from the space of, I'm victimized. This isn't working. This sucks.
No.
And I'm disappointed.
From the place of, I am an individuation of the ultimate energy and I got this.
Yeah. So this is, if we're going to go back to the extreme ownership episode, this is extreme ownership over your state of being.
State of being.
This is your extreme ownership over how you show up.
Right.
And that's a decision.
Oh, it's so exciting, people. Yeah. It really is. If you just wake up tomorrow morning and be like, I am going to show up in my awesome soul identity and purpose. And even if you don't even know what that is, something's going to shift. And if you just all day long go, I got this, I got this, I got this, something in your field will shift.
Yeah. It can't not.
And people will start buying you lunch. Because they're going to want the goods.
Is that true?
Yeah, totally. They're going to be like, what's going on? I want this. I want this magic juju, whatever's going on with Bob. And all of a sudden, he's really happy. That's exciting.
It is. It's interesting to see happy people. I get
energy. He's powerful.
I get messages in my Facebook sometimes. Do you ever get these that are like, you seem really happy. What happened?
What's wrong? No, I don't get those. That's the dark yogi coming back. The dark yogi's been illuminated.
I get those.
What happened?
It always cracks me up. What happened? I'm like, I knew I was kind of a miserable bastard sometimes. I caused problems. I got brought into the musicians union at least once. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, it was just, We'll
leave that for another podcast. Let's bring it back to elevation, okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm just sharing, I've been there. So exit plan, I think the biggest piece.
Or not exit plan.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny thing too, is a lot of times when somebody really starts showing up and serving from their highest, one, your value gets seen because you're not hiding it anymore. And two, you find out like, oh, this is actually pretty cool.
Right.
Leaving is not always the answer, especially true in relationships.
Yeah, don't leave yet.
Dude, sort your stuff out
don't
first.
Don't leave yet. What's like what that person is annoying in you. Oh God, this will be our next podcast. What that person is like activating in you, and that's your stuff. I hate to tell you. We'll bring this up next podcast, but yeah, relationships are like the fast track to enlightenment. So hang in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we should do a podcast on that.
We probably will be the next one, so look forward to it. Okay, so awesome. Powerful action, be in the flow, who you are, who are you being, come from your full potential, higher self. And yes, if you have a chance to be in the flow and action of your Svadharma, what it is you love to do. Like if you're a painter and you're in med school, might want to pause and have a good conversation with yourself because it's going to be tough. But, if you're a people person and you're at a job and you're surrounded by people, but you're shutting yourself off because something in the company is annoying you, you have an amazing ability to turn that around by connecting with every human around you. You're going to be shocked at how you'll actually change the culture of the company you're in.
Yeah. Your innate gifts and talents are right there.
They're right in front of you.
And they're usually the things that you'll discount the most.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, that's just normal for me, So you don't really think much of it, but it's totally not normal,
Right.
It's something that's really unique and powerful that you bring to it. And then when you start to align that and you start to be in that, now that's when you can start to create momentum and flow and really start to take more powerful and directed action.
Yes.
So if you know that you have a higher calling and there's parts of you that you're not expressing, part of the action behind that is digging in there.
Right.
What's going on? You know, like you don't want to get totally like self-absorbed or anything like that, but you do want to spend some time really like reflecting on what's going on inside of you and what parts of you that you feel frustrated around and not expressed so that you can start to bring that out.
Right. So there's one before we're going to answer a couple questions in a second, everyone. But I just want to tie it back to another way to look at Svadharma, soul identity and soul purpose is something we call your soul energy. So for instance, what happens to Kisma when she cannot embody her divine soul expression energy, Nick? What happens there?
Well, nothing good. Nothing good happens when Kisma feels suppressed,
not heard.
Yeah. If you do not feel heard, it's definitely a problem.
It's tough. So my soul energy, my primary soul energy is divine self-expression. So what we wanted to offer up for our amazing listeners is we have a few spots for actually a gift of, what is it called? It's like a soul energetic analysis.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Cool.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So basically, you get an opportunity to figure out, what that fundamental energy is that you run. Like, where do you live? It's not a personality thing. It's totally not that.
Just drive me nuts.
Yeah. I've taken like 1 million of them because I'm interested in, I want to know who I am.
Yeah, they haven't figured me out yet. I'll just tell
you
that
always
right
break
now.
the molds on those. I get, certain things from some, but until I started doing this work, it never really spoke to me, and it never really like encapsulated like who I am, and some of the things that I do. Like my primary energy is divine love, so I'm really just natural with people. I care very much about people. Kind of a deeply felt person.
You need a little affirmation.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my love languages. Yeah. And you need that connection, so I'm a natural, like love is the fundamental healing energy. So I'm natural at that sort of stuff, which I never thought like I'd do anything around that, that was just never in my realm until somebody woke it up in me. And I knew that like, oh, that's actually a deep calling for me.
Right.
So when you know what those are, there's actually like 8 different energies that, give you a kind of a starting place of where you're at in that. When you know where that is and kind of some of the positives and the gifts that come with that, and also some of the pitfalls that come with that, then you can learn how to navigate your life and be true and authentic to yourself in a much more simple way.
Right.
Because I think the whole conversation around authenticity can get very confusing for people.
Yes.
Like I'm just being who I am, and yeah, but you're kind of an asshole right now. And you know what I mean? Like, and that's not okay because that's not who you really are.
That's the shadow side of your soul energy.
Right. That's how you're feeling and that's how it's expressing, but that's not actually who you really are.
Exactly.
So, there's that kind of conversation around authenticity.
Yeah. And it's really powerful. Like when we go into companies and instead of doing personality or wealth assessments and we do soul readings, they're blown away when they find out like their bookkeeper does not have divine right order or divine order. They're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like it's let's switch roles, everyone. But anyway, so how do people apply for this potential gift?
Yeah. So obviously there's personal time involved. We don't have this automated in some really cool survey or anything like that yet. One day, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
But there's a personal thing. We got to connect with it.
But it's a personal thing. So we can do a certain number of these. And all you have to do, there is a brief form to fill out. It's got a few questions just so that,
we know you're not a robot.
Yeah. And
we know you're really committed to going through this process. It doesn't take long, but as Nick said, it takes time. We have some spots for some gifts. Can't promise it to everyone, but where do they go to fill out this form?
You go to sourcemovement.com/soul.
Ooh, sourcemovement.com/soul. That's exciting.
That's it.
I wish somebody would have told me my divine soul energy a long time ago. Would have made life easier.
Yeah.
Alas. But anyways, okay, cool. So that's awesome. So let's go to our questions. And so how do people who hear us answering these questions are like, well, I have a question. What do they do to get their question on the podcast?
I just email us.
Okay.
info@sourcemovement.com.
info@sourcemovement.com. Type in your question and type in if you want us to use your name or you do not want us to use your name. Because right now we're just kind of assuming if you don't say it's okay, we're just going to respect your privacy. But if you're like, hey, I want to shout out on Illumination podcast, like tell us that.
Yeah. We'll default to not identifying, just out of respect, but if you want to shout out, we're happy to give a shout out because we really dig everybody who sends in questions and all these. We got a couple really good ones that we're going to talk about now. So first one, I'll just read it.
Okay.
Let's see here. Hey, you two. Great recent podcast. Really enjoyed it this morning. Quick questions. I'm still struggling with caring what people think and obsessing on mistakes. With radical and extreme ownership, how do I balance without beating myself up too much or overthinking? So,
great question from someone who obviously is super smart, very talented, successful, and has a bit of a perfectionist quality.
Well, this is a really typical.
Happens a lot, right?
Yeah, it's really, I shouldn't say typical, but it's very common for a really.
I know, I've gone through that.
Yeah, for a driven person who is committed to excellence.
Right.
To get, to kind of get into this sort of conversation and this struggle reconciling these things. And this is actually really common. We actually got a lot of comments about the extreme ownership or extreme spirituality. What was it? Extreme enlightenment. Yeah, the concept of extreme ownership. Thank you, Jacko Willink. But the concept of extreme ownership really triggered some things. And what I saw was that people have definitely trauma around responsibility and also a misunderstanding of what this actually means. And so in this question, there's a connection being made that actually doesn't need to be made. And that's, I think, where the conflict is coming from. So still struggling with caring what people think and obsessing over mistakes. Balancing that with radical and extreme ownership, beating yourself up, right? So those two are actually, they don't need to go together.
Right.
They don't need to be connected. Like taking ownership does not mean beating yourself up.
Right.
That's a choice and a personalization that your value is now dependent on your results or the actions that you took. Right. And so when you make that connection, that's actually, that's what I think is happening. And it's super common is like, it's just personalized.
Right.
So now it's either your worth or your confidence or, something around there that's connected to your results.
Right.
And then now it's like beat yourself up. And typically people will beat themselves up because that's how they motivate.
Right.
So I didn't get it, so I'm just going to beat the crap out of myself.
Oh, it sucks.
Right? I've done that,
Yeah,
for
me
sure,
too.
especially as a musician.
Oh, the
That was really
musician. I am how I play. That's
big.
the worst.
And that carries over into all, into different areas for sure, because you've been trained into that. Well, I think most people have been trained into that in a certain way.
Right.
And you think the thought is that if I don't do that, I won't be motivated to get better.
Right.
And I think that's something we all share is like, we all want to be better. We all want to do better at what we're doing. We want to get better results.
We want to be good humans, don't we?
Yeah. I mean,
if you don't want to be a good human, I don't think you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't be listening. You wouldn't have made it this far into the podcast for sure.
Like, they're nuts. These full potential people, they're nuts.
Yeah, they would have been gone. But you're here now, and so I can, that's I think a reasonable assessment that everybody here wants to be a better human. But beating yourself up is not the way to get there. It's actually the exact opposite of that, of loving. But then people go to the other end of the spectrum with that, and it's like, it doesn't matter. No worries. It's all good.
Yeah.
Happy. Everything's good. And you're
basically another doober. Is that what they're called?
Dude. Jeez. Doober.
What do they call this little thing?
I'm pretty sure they don't call them doobies anymore, if that's the word you're looking for. People like vape now. It's like all kinds of different things.
Okay, move on. Carry on.
Yeah, carry on. This is not the conversation you're looking for. But basically what they're doing is they're getting high on like peace and love. And, like somebody was asking me about that one time. They went to like Burning Man and, they were talking about some of the conversations that they were having and yada, yada. And I was like, like those people are all stoned, right? And they just kind of looked at me like, what, how can you be saying that? And I was like, well, whether they're on drugs or not, like they're all stoned. Like they're totally stoned. Not only are they in that energy, but they're in their own minds. You're basically stoned on peace and love because it feels so good, but it makes you not objective. So that's the other end of the spectrum that people go to.
Yeah.
So
clueless.
You need
love, light, clueless.
Love, light, and clueless. You need the middle path, and that middle path is like, here's my results.
Right.
Just the facts.
Just the facts.
Yeah.
Train of truth. Just the facts.
Just the facts.
So may I insert a few words here?
Yeah, of course.
Of the train of truth. for this person, let me share something too. We often think that we're not perfect. So a human in the divine origination is actually perfect. Now, in that perfection, we can make mistakes. And thankfully, we make mistakes because what happens when we make a mistake? Oh, that wasn't quite exactly what I wanted. Reboot, reignite, redo. But the redo has no emotional charge. You're just reigniting, rebooting, and redo. So whenever we start to judge ourselves or worry what someone else is thinking, we're not in the present moment. Even if, and listen here, everyone, even if you're having a conversation and as you're talking in your mind, you're worried what the other person is thinking about what you're saying, you're not in the present moment. You're going into the non-existent future and you're worried what they're going to say back to you or what they're thinking. So be it in the present moment. Be willing to make mistakes because that means you're elevating, right? You're able to examine and change it up and make decisions and accept who you are as this amazing, awesome human.
Yeah, that's really it.
Yep.
Like keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
So the really short answer to that question is basically there's a personalization happening there that's causing to connect those two things. And if you just bring it back to just the facts. And just to highlight that, I was at an event this past weekend, like an internet marketing kind of event, and a lot of diverse businesses there. And
ClickFunnels.
Yeah, ClickFunnels. Funnel hacks. Funnel hacking live. Yeah. It was a really cool event, actually.
It's great. Love those ClickFunnels people. Love Russell Brunson.
Yeah. And I mean, I met some really amazing people and had some great conversations. And what I noticed that was very surprising to me was how comfortable they were talking about their failures.
That's so awesome.
It was so cool. And come to find out, I really didn't even know this. I guess I never even thought about it. But, when you're writing, like you've got like Dan Kennedy, like one of the greatest copywriters, ever, like he bombs more than he's successful. Like they just know how to cut and get out and work with what, with what's really working, but they put out and they fail. This is what I heard anyway. I don't know if this is 100% true, but it makes sense to me. And that's definitely what I've seen in my own life and other people is that like you fail more than you succeed. Right. But it's really about taking that success and, running with it and, cutting loss
and not having an emotional charge to it.
Well, that's what I was just going to say is like that when you get into that emotional thing around it, or you get too attached to like, that should totally be working or whatever, or I suck. I can't believe I thought that, or I can't believe I thought that was a good idea. Then you just basically stop that whole process. Right. So, getting comfortable just being with your failure and just, that's all it is. Just an idea that didn't work. And it's just one step closer to getting where you want to go.
Exactly.
That keeps you out of that conversation. And I found that, really the more successful people that I hung out with were more comfortable talking about their failures. And the people who were kind of like a little less secure and not so sure, like they just wouldn't really talk about those things. Right. And it gave me permission to talk about some of my challenges in ways that I just hadn't.
And learn something, right?
Yeah, and really learn.
The past is for learning. The present moment is, guess what? The powerful place to be.
Exactly.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, amazing human, for submitting that question. There's another question. You want to tackle this one, Nick?
Yes, I do.
All right. Let's dive in. This is a good one, too.
This is a little bit longer one. I'm just going to read it. I work and interact with most of the humans in my life in a corporate setting, 8 to 11 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's a fair amount.
A lot of hours.
Yeah. That's a big commitment. In this environment, I find qualities of patience, compassion, and connecting to the intellect extremely challenging, i.e. the practice of emotional intelligence. You had a thought on that. Do you want to clarify something there? As long as we're at it, you want to come back to it? We'll come back to it. I've got firm deadlines, multiple cooks in the kitchen, lots of personalities, often opposite ones, a huge spectrum of ages and maturity levels, tons of pressure, and a very ripe setting for disagreements, conflict, and bulldog grip attachment.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, it sounds like aggressive environment. Yeah, which is cool. Here's the question. What's your advice for practicing patience, developing the intellect, and pausing the momentum of mind in a 100-mile-per-hour environment where performance expectations and high stakes are a constant?
Oh.
Great podcast episode, by the way. Proud of you guys. It's cool. That's so sweet. Yeah, I dig that. Thank you. Awesome question. Like I wrote this person back and I was like, dude, awesome question. Like great question. So I think let's start practical, like just really practical things. The question, one of the reasons that this is an awesome question is because you're asking for the right solution.
Exactly.
Right. So if it were like, there's a million other ways that this question could have come out, but it came out of like, basically, how do I practice patience and develop my intellect, and pause the mind, the momentum of mind, which I just see as kind of like racing thoughts. I'm pretty sure I get that, but, hopefully that's what you intend amidst this really intense environment.
And I love there's no blame here.
Yeah, there's no blame.
It's just like, I want to know what I can do. Like, that's a leader, people. There's no blame. Like, I got this person over here and that. It's like, what do I do? That's awesome.
This is in the question is modeled, just by the way, like really excellent question also, because it's modeled without that charge on it.
Yes.
Of, it's just like, this is the facts. This is what's going on. And I understand that this is important for me to develop, and I need to know how to develop that. So great question. And practically speaking, there's a couple things you can do. So developing the intellect is basically just continuing to develop objectivity.
Right.
And really keen discernment.
In directing the emotions.
Yeah. Yep. When it's strong, it will naturally direct your emotions in a more powerful way. So how you develop the intellect is really, really simple. Best way is to just study something meaningful every morning.
Right.
It could be 15 minutes. It could be half an hour, whatever. You want to do that as early as possible. And the goal, just want to be really clear on this. The goal is actually not to learn anything. It's not to like take in more information. I used to think it was about that, but I learned it's really not about that. It's not about learning. So if you don't learn anything from it, awesome, no problem. It's about understanding, and it's about really learning to develop a keen sense of discrimination. Is it true?
Is it true?
Is it true? How does it apply in life? Are there situations where it does apply? Where are the gray areas? Where does it make sense? Where does it not make sense? So that you can really develop that sense of discernment. And if you do that first thing in the morning.
Earlier is better, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Earlier is better. So a quick routine around that is basically get up, drink some water, drink a nice big glass of water, and then do some jumping jacks. Just to get your body moving real quick. Like, you don't want to get crazy with it, but just do like a little movement and then sit down and do this so that your body and your mind are at least a little bit awake to start to do that. And like really 15 minutes is cool. Yeah. If that's all you got, do it.
Read, reflect, integrate.
So you could do that with anything. Well, not anything, but you could do that with any number of texts.
Yeah, you're not going to do that with a romance novel.
Yeah, don't do that with 50 Shades of Grey.
Which has no intellect. But,
but you could do that with, some people are into the Bible. Like you could totally do that with the Bible if you wanted.
Great text.
Or any other like spiritual text like that.
The Four Agreements.
The Four Agreements is awesome.
Yeah.
Like love, that book is so amazing. And if you really, you can read through it in an afternoon easily. No problem. But if you spend your time and just take like a paragraph at a time, you'll get, not only will you understand it better, but you will get more out of it.
Right. But what's the magic text to read?
The magic text.
This is it, everyone.
Is, well, really anything by Swami Parthasarathi. So the typical one to start with is Fall of the Human Intellect.
So good.
And that's another one. You can totally read that in one sitting, 100%. But when
you don't want to, though.
Well, yeah, you just won't. You'll read it. What'll happen is you'll read it and you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. right? But that's not even the point. It's not even to learn anything. The point is to just really dissect it so that your intellect can get in there, like get in there with it and work it around and take in some good information, but just a little tiny bit, and really like work it around in there and really discern with it. And what you'll find is that text, the reason that those are the golden ones is because he wrote those specifically to develop the intellect.
Right.
So they're systematic and designed to do exactly that. You can do it with other texts, but if you're going to do it, like that's the fast track.
Right.
Another one, if you don't want to start with Follow the Human Intellect, is Governing Business and Relationships.
That's such a great one.
It's awesome. Great book. So read that. And then part 2 is before you go to bed. I think we talked about this before too, is introspection. It's a quick little process called introspection where before you go to bed, don't do it while you're laying down. You'll probably fall asleep. But you basically just sit down for 5 minutes and you tick through the activities of your day.
Yeah.
This is very just the facts.
Just the facts,
I did
ma'am.
this, I did that, I did this, I did that.
Not if it went good or bad. It just happened.
Yeah. And so if it takes more than 5 minutes, you're definitely getting into maybe 10, depending on how much you do in a day. But that will help you to really become much more objective towards those things. And then third is a quick little breathing exercise that will help to keep everything flowing for you, because what you're describing here is an extremely intense and fluid environment. And it's probably a massive amount of information that's coming at you that you're fielding and directing in different ways, working with all these different personalities and also the jobs associated with them and all these different things. So in that kind of an environment, like you need to stay fluid, like you really need to stay like water. And if anything gets stuck, it will get into, it'll probably be really painful for you.
Right.
So this breathing exercise will keep you fluid. And it'll keep everything kind of processing and moving through, and it'll also help you get back in your body.
Right.
So when you're spending time in an environment like that, you're going to be a lot in your head, and
a lot in other people's heads too, trying to figure out why they're acting the way they are, or why they're not listening, or why they're getting emotional, or what are they thinking?
Yeah. So you want to stay out of that, and you want to be in your body, and this will help to do that. And so how you do it is you put the tip of the tongue at the roof of your mouth, kind of curl it back a little bit. You sort of feel where the ridges are there. Keep the tip of the tongue connected to the roof of the mouth, and then you just breathe in and out through your nose. You breathe in for a count of 6, and then you hold for 3, and then you breathe out for a count of 6, and then you hold for 3, and just repeat that 6, 3, 6, 3. So in 6, hold 3, out 6, hold 3, and you repeat that. Your rhythm is just like, or I should say, your tempo will be a natural tempo for you. It doesn't have to be like anything specific. You'll notice that it slows down. But what that'll do is just basically just help to really keep you in the flow and to keep things moving.
Right.
In a much more grounded way. So hopefully that helps. I think Kisma's got a little bit more.
Yeah, I have two things. So the intellect, and this is really cool because in the first part of the question, this human said, in this environment, I find qualities of patience, compassion, and connecting to the intellect extremely challenging. So we never connect to the intellect. We either have developed it or we haven't. We either have built the muscle of an intellect or we haven't. So once the muscle, now definitely we can develop the muscle of an intellect, and then if we totally stop studying or stop practicing, that muscle is going to weaken. Just like when we do push-ups, we've got our biceps going and we stop and we lose it. So you either have an intellect that's developed or you don't, which in the second or third part of the question, it was much clearer how to develop the intellect, which Nick gave some really great tips on. Now, here's what I believe is the gold for anyone listening here, walking into a exciting, potentially challenging, active, and really the potentiality of being a powerful situation. There are 4 words. I am the one. This is what you tell yourself as you walk in, as you're doing the 6-3 breathing. I am the one, because in actuality you are. And I'm not saying believe a different faith or whatever. But if we all get this piece that we are an individuation of the most unique ultimate energy, if we are the universe, if we are source, God, Brahman, Atman, whatever it is, if we understand this, everything changes. The most monumental problems are like, well, I got this because I am the one. We have to understand we have access to universal planes of information, of consciousness. It is all there. And this is something that science is just beginning to tap into. Like when you look at the quantum, we have access to all this information. So get off our phones, get off our computers, tap into the fact that you are the one and walk in that way. Because here's what happens. When you do the 6-3 breathing, when you are chanting to yourself, I am the one, your field, your energetic formula around you expands. It has more resilience. So when you walk in, people feel that. They feel your presence. You could actually go through an entire day and say so much less, but hold this energy, this morphogenetic field around you, and people are going to be like, I kind of got to listen to that human. So this is a way to really expand your powerful action. I am the one.
Yeah, it's a great question also for this topic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then one part that I kind of want to add on to this before we close it out too is that the technique for study and reflection, like that is incredibly powerful. It will develop your intellect. Mm-hmm. There's a way to speed that up. And the way to do that is through clearing. So there's energetic tools and processes that help to basically weed those things out and fast track that process.
Yep.
And that's something to look into, you know.
But be careful where you're looking.
Yeah.
In other words, we got the gold.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's goods there.
That's cool. If you all fill out that application for the soul energetic analysis, we'll talk about how to do that or how to have more access to that.
Yeah, there are ways. There are ways to. You need both. Like you know, like developing the intellect alone is extremely powerful. You will master your world, and you'll attain a level of self mastery that is very respectable and very useful in your life.
Completely, totally.
You'll definitely reduce drama. But when energetic patterns are stuck and lodged in the different layers of the body, those things do continue to activate, and it can create, problems.
Yeah, it's a little bit late. We'll talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that another one. But I just want to kind of throw it out there to see, like,
and that's what we practice every day. That's what we teach. This is what our courses and retreats are about. Clearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I think that's it.
You are the one.
You are the one. I am the one.
I am the one. Start saying that, everyone. Yeah. It's like, boom, everyone's feeling. We have tools actually we can measure what people's fields are before they say that, or when they're in an environment that is tense, like you just scan their field. It's like, where their base field we know is actually much more resilient. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. It is interesting to see how those just subtle shifts like that can really create, it seems minuscule,
right.
You wouldn't think that it would matter, but when you really look at what's happening on an energetic level, it's really powerful.
Right.
And the subtle, right? You remember, like, the subtle is extremely powerful.
Totally.
So I think that'll do it.
Powerful action, people.
Powerful action.
Who are you being and how are you doing what you're doing?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So creating that powerful alignment, the link to get in on the assessment,
soul energetic analysis
is sourcemovement.com/soul. If you're checking us out on iTunes or Stitcher or anywhere else like that, like, please give us a rating and a review.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
We've got, we really, really appreciate those coming in. And
look for our mantra snacks.
Yeah, look for the mantra snacks.
And send us your questions, info@sourcemovement.com.
Yep, be happy to answer your questions. Love the conversations that these open up. So, and it's just like, it's exciting to me to be able to interact with the audience in a new way. So thank you for everybody who sent in a question. We really so appreciate you.
And thank you for listening. And we love you. Have an awesome, awesome day.
Namaste.
Namaste.